Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, we're talking about one of the greatest of all time first-person shooters, and that is Halo Combat Evolved. This cover art, one of my absolute favorites, especially because you can see it's like reflective, like the Master Chief's reflective. Also the Warthog on the back is reflective. I love this complete in-box experience, so much so that we're about to get this game for a fourth time. We have the original Combat Evolved, of course, then we got the Anniversary Edition when 343 took over the franchise, then the Master Chief Collection, which also had Halo Combat Evolved in it, and now we're getting this remake Halo game. So the question that's on our minds is this game really that good to get it not once, not twice, not three times, but four times? And I'm here to answer that with a somewhat biased opinion. Now look, I don't say this with blinders on, because I know the Halo franchise is in an abysmal state ever since 343. Now Halo Studios has inherited the franchise. But like many of you, that Bungie era of Halo, I hold near and dear to my heart. Everything from Halo 1, 2, 3 ODST, Reach. What an incredible time. We had it so good, man. The most controversial thing about Halo up until Reach was like, hey, they added these armor suit abilities in multiplayer. Should this have happened? But otherwise, man, this is the series that revolutionized first-person shooters on consoles, and it all began with one single game in Halo. Next year is the 25th anniversary of this game, and I have to say, this is one of my favorite first-person shooters ever. Yes, there are other Halo games, pretty much all of them from the Bungie era, that are way better than Combat Evolved, but this game has a special atmosphere, type of level design, sense of openness that I adore. It was actually one of the main reasons that I was very excited for Halo Infinite, because Halo Infinite, they literally built an entire game off of a single level in Combat Evolved. And that was the second level in the game, which is called Halo. You land on the ring, and it's this Pacific Northwest appearance, very open, very broad. Get on your Warthog, save the Marines scattered about the level. I love that mission, as I do with many missions that I'll break down in this game. But for them to build the whole game on that was so exciting for me. And while the campaign had its highs and lows, the multiplayer kind of brought back that more sandboxy nature. It felt like there was something to believe in there. And that's one of the main reasons I was excited for Infinite, was just that Halo Combat Evolved spirit, especially when you look at the Halo Infinite box art. They get evoked Combat Evolved. So this game means a lot to me. I have so many memories with it, all the way down to the Xbox demo disc that had the Mission Silent Cartographer on it, which I replayed so many times as a kid. And that was one of my favorite demo discs. That was around the time where you had demo discs like Dead or Alive 3, the first level of Max Payne in the subway. That's how I got introduced to Halo, a demo disc. And I played the Silent Cartographer over and over and over again, and always got to that room where the elite would run in with his energy sword, shut the door, and the demo would end. So I've established my nostalgia and adoration for this game enough. I will now break it all down for you and why I think, yes, it is absolutely that good. If you're new here and you're into nostalgic or retrospective content, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing. There's obviously the big things I can point to, the missions, it revolutionized first-person shooters on console, but for me, there were a couple things that really stick out in my brain about Halo. Number one, with Combat Evolved, this is where I became obsessed with keeping my Marines alive. Even to this day, there's this built-in part of my brain that if a Marine's about to die, I get anxious. When they do die, I reload the checkpoint. I love making sure all my soldiers survive. It's so funny because there's this story about Halo Infinite's development cycle where they originally didn't have the Marines scattered around the Halo ring. And I was just like, they didn't have Marines in the game that you could find and help and team up with. I couldn't believe that, because to me, it's such a weird little thing, but it's so core to the Halo experience. I love the little ragtag groups that you put together of your passenger seat Marine and your gunner seat Marine, the smack they talk, the hoorah when you're going off a little bump in the road and you just get 10 feet of air and they're like, hell yeah. They're so cool to me. And obviously after seeing Aliens recently, it's so obvious how much that franchise really inspired Halo. Again, as many of you know, I've seen many a popular movie extremely late, but the influence Alien and Aliens has had on Halo is awesome. Everything from the flood to the way the soldiers are very rah-rah. It's awesome. But the other thing that's not so little that makes Halo so special is its soundtrack. I mean, I already think these missions are so well designed, as I'll get into in a moment here, but the soundtrack by Marty O'Donnell just lifts this thing up to a whole other level of epic. The perfect example is Silent Cartographer, 4th mission in the game. You're storming the beach, and here's the Halo theme kicking in, the da-da-da-da. Goosebumps, bro, every time, hair on end, just storming the beach, music's roaring, you and the Marines fighting against the Covenant. It is so awesome, man. I love that part. It's another one of those gamer memories that's just burnt in my brain, because as a kid, I replayed that part on the demo disc so many times, but when you get back to it, it's just the reason I go back to that mission so many times. I guess this is a good point to kind of establish why I love Halo Combat Evolved so much. By the second half of the game, like 7th mission, I mean, it's a 10 mission game, so we're not saying too much here, but by the deeper parts of the game, you start to see them doubling up on some environments. Like, you go back to the environment for Assault on the Control Room and Two Betrayals, but it's just kind of like a much bigger version of a level you've already been to. You go back to like the Pillar of Autumn. You go back to a lot of these familiar locations from the first half of the game, but when all of it's new, oh my, does it slap. To me, Halo Combat Evolved has the best 1, 2, 3 punch in a shooter campaign. And it starts with Silent Cartographer, right? Because it's not like the missions before that or after that, excluding the library, which we'll talk about, are really bad or just not as good. It's just that this back to back to back, the gradual scaling, and so much of what makes Halo Halo is packed in these 3 missions. Silent Cartographer is pure Halo. It's you, your Marines, the soundtrack is sick. You are storming the beaches, taking out the Covenant, taking the fight to them. It's that sense of being epic while also trying to find out, like, what are the Covenant planning? Like, just this sense of the unknown. Then you get to Assault on the Control Room. This is where I feel the weather and atmosphere of Halo shines the brightest. It was actually, we talked about Infinite a lot in this video already, but one of the biggest disappointments with Infinite was the lack of different biomes and weather patterns. And I thought for sure they would do story expansions for that game, because Pacific Northwest is great. Like in a mission such as Halo, and I don't mean the franchise, but actually the mission name, Halo, second one in the game, versus a whole game built around that where you spend like 20 hours in just that region and you want it to switch up, but it never really does. Anyway, Assault on the Control Room, I legitimately adore. It is my favorite mission in the entire campaign, simply because I always remember that step-out moment where you see the Wraith shooting a missile across the battlefield. All of your Marines are tucked in this back left corner. Against the wall, you see like a flipped-over Warthog, and they're just completely under attack, and you just start to process, again, as a kid, this game was massive. Like, these levels are huge, and honestly, compared to Halo games nowadays, these levels are still really big and expansive. But it's the quietness and the peace that snow brings that's in direct contrast to the messy war that's being fought. I loved how in this game, if Master Chief was getting shot, you'd leave blood on the floor. If you killed the Covenant or you punched them or you shot them, their blood was left on the floor. It was such a gory game for its time. It was, I think, as a kid, really the establishment of why I enjoy oh man, news outlets are gonna love this one. I love a good violent video game. Like, it just creates the power fantasy and it's the brutality of war. It's done so well. So I just love the snowy setting, and each mission in this game has a gimmick of some kind. Like in Assault on the Control Room, you get this Scorpion for the first time. You board this bad boy and you are firing away. You have the power of a tank. All your Marines are with you. Meanwhile, in the following mission, 343 Guilty Spark, you want to talk about peak Halo atmosphere. This is the introduction of the Flood. As a kid, this mission terrified me, but in the best way. It was so scary to see the Marines that I loved so much, that I always wanted to keep alive, now practically being undead aliens launching themselves at you. At first, you just see these little bulbs coming out and you're like, okay, I'll just pop these things, whatever. But then you start to see like half-eaten, half-chopped up forms of your Marines. Like you just notice, oh, the legs that they have are the same as that Marine I was helping out earlier. And that was where I started to establish at a young age visual storytelling, where they don't really say what's happening there, but as you see different key characters absorbed by the Flood, it gets more and more grim. And I love this because of the way it's introduced. Now, this is where I go against the Anniversary Edition for Halo Combat Evolved, where 343 handled it, because they really brush up and clean up a ton of the blood on the level, as you can see here. Like, they really completely ruin the atmosphere and the brutality of, wait, there aren't any Marines here, but the Covenant are dead. And if you pay close attention, you'll see when you first encounter the Covenant on this level and they're running out of the facility, they're running away from something. There's so many signs throughout this mission, both deliberate, like the blood splattered everywhere in the dead Covenant, to just them running away, that there's something else here. I think it's brilliant, man. The one thing that really does hold back this game that can be solved in a remake style experience is some of the levels are old and difficult to navigate because of the way that they're designed. Of course, the highlight for this is the library. This is the mission where you're traveling with 343 Guilty Spark, and it's way too long. There's a million hallways, and it's the one mission in the game where I will betray the original game's art style and flip on the Anniversary Edition, simply because you'll find arrows on the floor that are pointing you where to go. I think this was a great creative decision by 343, something I rarely say nowadays, because you look at that and you go, okay, this is where I need to go. It's so easy to get spun around in some of these levels. So easy. And so I feel like this is something they could do a lot better, and also kind of slim things down. Make the level design a little bit better, where things like Assault on the Control Room, a lot of those levels are built within like rings. And if you're not like me, who's replayed these campaigns dozens of times, where you're like, I know this like the back of my hand, I fear for new players that this will be confusing. But to me, that is the 1, 2, 3 punch of Halo Combat Evolved. The storming the beaches of the Silent Cartographer, the snow and atmosphere of Assault on the Control Room, and the creepy flood in 343 Guilty Spark. To me, that is why every single time I fire up Halo Combat Evolved and do a new playthrough, that is the moment I'm waiting for, and I never put down the controller during that stretch. I always go 4 through 6 without a stop. It's literally perfect. I love it to death so much. Again, that's not to disrespect other missions in the game. There's missions just built on invading Covenant ships and using a sniper rifle in the midst of night. Like, the gimmicks per level, I think, really drive the fun factor of this campaign. It establishes a formula that Halo would forever use. I mean, Reach is a great example of just gimmicks per act, and how there's always something new being put in front of you, a new toy. Same thing with 2, same thing with 3. There's always something new, a new enemy type. And hey, Halo Combat Evolved has a lot of those. You have the grunts, you have the jackals with the shields, you have the elites who are a lot tougher. But then as a kid, man, whenever I saw a hunter, oh boy, scary time for your boy. I mean, I would run away. I'd be throwing grenades and these things would be jumping at me, swinging their weapons at me. It'd be crazy. So yeah, like, I love the enemy diversity, and then you throw in the flood there and they attack you completely differently. I just love, again, just how many different ways you have to approach the combat scenarios in this game. But then you're like your Master Chief, you're the super soldier. So yeah, love the campaign. What about the multiplayer? So for me, I did not have a ton of experience with this because I was never really a big multiplayer guy growing up outside of Call of Duty, which I went through my era of just playing COD. I did play a lot of Halo 3 multiplayer, but for me, the most memories I have with Halo 1 multiplayer was actually in a very specific pocket of the day and pocket of the year as a kid growing up. Those of you who grow up in places where there's no snow, you might not be able to relate to this, but growing up in the Northeast, we had these crazy things, and still do, called 2-hour delays. And so what would happen is, like, you'd always pray for the snow day. Like, you'd check the weather, oh, tomorrow it's gonna snow. And if it snows, that means we don't have to go to school. Hopefully the plows don't show up or the buses break down, that sort of thing. All kinds of crazy stories and rumors would start to spread. You'd wake up the next day before school and you'd go, okay, is school canceled? Oftentimes, because we live in the Northeast and we're prepared for the snowstorms, you just get a 2-hour delay, which means, you know, your classes are shortened a little bit, you leave at the same time, but at least you shed off 2 hours of the day. I would still get up at the same time and I'd just play Halo growing up. But what we would do is have our neighbors come over and we'd play like Halo split screen before school. Now, I was never this type of gamer, by the way. I know friends who would like wake up early before a school day and play like an hour of Fallout New Vegas, for example. I could never do that. I don't know if I'm like weird for that, but I have never been a morning gamer. The earliest you'll see me gaming is the afternoon, and most times I always like the game at night once everything's done. For me, gaming's always a reward. But when you're a young kid, you'll game whenever. I always had to ask for permission to game, and I was never allowed to like game after dinner growing up. So like, yeah, when your boy was a free man, yeah, I was gaming whenever the hell I wanted at a certain stretch of my life. But growing up, like, that was a real treat to be able to play some games before school, and like Halo Combat Evolved multiplayer was the go-to there. So had a lot of fun with that. Definitely not as memorable as like Halo 2 or 3 multiplayer, especially Halo 3, but just, I love this game, man. I really do. I so highly recommend it to people because I just think it's everything Halo should be. It's open, it's atmospheric. Chief speaks very little, but everything he says is impactful. It's the introduction of Cortana and just how key she is to the whole story. It's beautiful, man. It's a beautiful video game. The library is the key flaw, but otherwise, I do think it's like a borderline perfect first-person shooter, and it only gets better with Halo 2 and Halo 3. So is Halo Combat Evolved really that good? Yes, and I know it's tough to compliment Halo nowadays because we know how 343 and Halo Studios has kind of gutted a lot of what we love, but man, dude, do I love that Bungie era. And I want to love the 343 era. There's parts of it that I don't hate. Like, I don't hate 4's campaign. 5, we forget about that. Infinite, I think, is somewhat redeemable, but the post-launch support was embarrassing. So I'm just hoping that we can kind of sprint out the gates and get something good here, and it's not a troublesome launch. But we'll see. Time will tell. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, I love me some Halo Combat Evolved, and I've played every single release of it. Have you? You'll let me know down below. But other than that, I'll catch you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.